winery friends who are here tonight. So we've got Francesco Sorelli from Ruffino here in my hometown of Pontesieve. So he's up there on the hill, I'm down here in the town. These are the times we're in. Charlotte Horton of Castello di Potentino, a magical place. Charlotte's waving, there we go. In Monte Amiata, down in the Maremma area of Tuscany, so a very different part of Tuscany. And we also have Mary and Jacopo from Querceto di Castellina in Chianti Classico. There we go. So we've got lots of different areas represented here tonight. So maybe Mary and Jacopo, could you start us off with presenting? Oh, they've disappeared. No, they're back. We're presenting one of your wines, and we're talking about Sangiovese. So maybe talk a little bit about what Sangiovese means to you as a winery as well.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Mary from Querceto di Castellina. I'm the marketing and hospitality director, and this is my husband, who is the winery founder and owner. And I'll let him kind of talk a little bit more about Sangiovese. But it's one of my absolute favorite grape varieties in the world.
So right now we are drinking our, I'll show you the bottle. So we are drinking our Chianti Classico Gran Selezione 2016. So this is a Sangiovese. It's a cru, so it's a single vineyard. We are a small, medium-sized winery. We have 28 acres. For 90%, it's Sangiovese. We tend to do single variety. So we do also a Chianti Classico Annata, that it's a Sangiovese. I believe in, of course, we are in Chianti Classico, so we have to use like 80% of Sangiovese. I don't love the blend of Sangiovese with other grapes. That's why we tend to do single variety. This is actually, it's a selection of only 2 different clones of Sangiovese. 16 was a great vintage. The vineyards are pretty high, so this is like a, let's say, a different expression of Sangiovese. Sangiovese is quite it's changed quite a bit depending from where it's planted. So our vineyards goes from 1500 to 1650 feet. Actually, this vineyard, it's around 1600 and 1650 feet. Correct.
Can you tell me when you're tasting that lovely Gran Selezione of yours, what is it saying? What is it? How would you define, maybe in 3 words, your Gran Selezione?
So the Gran Selezione, I mean, this is, it's the 2016 vintage, and I think this is something that's, I think Sangiovese, just, as a grape, inherently has really good acidity. And our wines, I think, because we're at a high elevation, but our wines tend to have really pronounced but balanced acidity in the wines. And for 2016 was, as a lot of people might know, but it was a really beautiful, beautiful year in Tuscany and in the Chianti Classico. I think the wines from 16, they tend to be really elegant, and I think that the Gran Selezione really reflects kind of the great growing conditions that we had that year. I would say, I'm trying to think, you taste it with me, and we'll talk about the kind of the nose. Sometimes with our wines, people say that you might get like a little bit of a balsamic kind of a characteristic to it. With this, I don't know if you would. The same, a tiny bit maybe like of cinnamon and some spices,
some coffee,
some coffee, and so that's kind of the nose that you get. But you can kind of tell also, like, just by the color of the wine. I mean, it's not, like an incredibly, kind of a fruit forward or intense wine. It's just, it's really balanced and elegant. It has the more kind of brighter red fruits, probably when you taste it. So more kind of blueberry, I'm trying to think what, cherries, a little bit. And then this is a wine that we age about 18 months in French oak barrels, and then about a year in the bottle. And it's a wine that, like now, it's the 16. I think it's drinking really lovely now, but it's also a wine that you could put into your cellar for, yeah, probably, gosh, I mean, 10, 15, if not 20 years.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Maybe Filippo can come. Is Filippo there? Is he hearing me? Maybe I know you've tasted this. I think we mentioned this last week that you tasted this wine from Jacopo. What can you jump in a second and talk about Sangiovese in respect to Jacopo's wine and what Sangiovese also means to you as a wine educator as well?
The Querceto di Castellina wine I mentioned last week, which seems like yesterday because days are flying, just crazy. But yeah, I said that 2016 for me is their best ever effort. I think the wine is getting way more in balance. Above all, with the oak presence is way more elegant in the wine. 2016 in Chianti Classico, it's just really one of the most consistent regions of Sangiovese. The major reason is not only like the terroir, but it's also the fact that there is incredible entrepreneurs, people that know what to do in terms of viticulture. They have an incredible relationship with their terroir. And right now, it's a great moment because the young generations, the older generations, new school, old school winemakers, they tend to be really consistent. So Querceto's 2016, like a lot of Chianti Classico 16, is like enjoyable now with more verticality. So like the wines tend to be quite refreshing and with an incredible longevity. So I like 16 across the chart. Actually, I like 16 everywhere in Tuscany, whether it's Sangiovese or not. To answer briefly a question about Sangiovese, and I'm sure we can touch back. For me, Sangiovese is I don't know if you can see the transparency, but it's about transparency. Sangiovese is a temperamental variety. There is lots of we only talk about two biotypes, which is the Grosso and Piccolo, but I think there is way of a bigger conversation with regards to biotypes. In Scansano, in the coast alone, there is like 30. You know what I'm saying? Like there is so much going on that we still don't know. Yeah. What we know though is that is a variety that delivers always a super cherry driven character, lots of licorice, a little bit of earthiness, and phenomenal acidity, always though with a Mediterranean trait. I think Sangiovese is pure Mediterranean, you know, whether above all when you start moving towards Montalcino, you start having a little bit like a more like riper fruit and Mediterranean herbs. So crunchy, reactive, but also when made well, aging potential. So fruit friendly, you know, like I'm a big fan of Sangiovese.
Yeah, aren't we all, Filippo? I mean, you know, it's one of the reasons for living in Tuscany as well. It, you know, we're spoilt for choice on the Sangiovese front. Going from a family-run winery like Querceto di Castellina to Ruffino, you know, here in Pontecerve, like I say, Francesco's up on the hill, not far from me. Francesco, maybe talk about Ruffino's approach to Sangiovese and what the grape means to you as a local as well.
Certo, Helen. Ciao a tutti. I was taking notes of Filippo, by the way. Ciao, Filippo. It's always a pleasure to listen to your words because it's like drinking the wine while you are speaking about wines. And I think this is one of the magic of the wine because for me, you were asking, Helen, what represents wine. For me, wine is beyond what is inside the wine. It's not a question of tannins, of acidity, of aromas that I like so much. And I used to have a lot of different wines, not only the wine. Today with me there is the icon of my company, Riserva Ducale Oro, Gran Selezione. It's a Chianti Classico that the company has been producing since 1927. and that in 1977 was celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the foundation. It was exactly the year when I was born. So I think it's and by the way, now in 1977, it's a fantastic wine to be tasted, because
Sorry,
wine.
Francesca, I don't know if you saw, Paige has your bottle of wine. She's drinking the same wine in Texas, I think, across the ocean.
Grazie, and thanks to Sangiovese, so not only about Riserva Ducale Oro or Ruffino or other companies, I spent some words about Sangiovese. It's a varietal that in these hard moments is exactly what we should try to do. Be resilient, try to adapt, be prosperous even in such hard time, staying by itself, so 100% Sangiovese, or blended is good as well. Sangiovese tells the story of population, Tuscan people, Italian people, that have always been very able, unique, I would say, in creating this gatherness moment, has been able to unify through wine under beautiful and tasty, so merging two different values, beauty and tastiness together. This is the magic of wine. This is the magic of Sangiovese. It's very versatile, open to any different territories. When I started working in wine, I was used to work in Consorzio Chianti Classic. I was young at the time, and Consorzio was doing a campaign regarding the versatility of Sangiovese according to the soil where it is cultivated, because it's really the land that makes the difference. And so, thanks to Sangiovese, it's a question of people, a question of how people interact with the wine, with the cultivation, with the vinification. So Sangiovese and wine, once more, is a sort of a pillar of a civilization that can help in these sad moments to react, to find a common point as a population, to be back and to give life to a new renaissance. And
wine is culture at the end of the day. You know, it's not just about what's in the glass, it's about everything that goes around the glass, which is probably even more important than than the bottle. I mean, talking about place, let's go over to Charlotte at magical Castello di Potentino, which I had the pleasure of coming to some time ago, and I know I'm overdue a visit, Charlotte, and once this is over, I'll move in. Maybe tell us about your take on Sangiovese and how Sangiovese differs in a volcanic area like Monte Amiata.
So I think the thing is that we're a very typical expression of Sangiovese. The microclimate that we have here is very particular. Our vineyards are only at 350 meters above sea level, so similar to a lot of Brunello vineyards. But we have the advantage of the mountain of the Amiata, which is right behind the castle. During the day, we get very hot, dry air sucked into our valley from the coastal plains. But at night, absolutely on time in the summer, at about 6 o'clock, we start getting the cold air rushing off the mountain. So we have hot, dry air during the day and cold, dry air at night. Extreme changes in temperature. So as we know, vines absolutely love that because they can do all their photosynthesis during the day, work very hard, and then have a really nice rest and process all their sugars at night. We have a very unusual situation because the valley that we're in, which is locally known as the Conca d'Oro, the Golden Valley or the Golden Bowl, is shaped literally like a bowl. And this has meant that all of the volcanic activity that happened, it's about 400,000 years ago, was the last eruption. All of that volcanic matter has actually remained in the valley and is being concentrated in the erosion that's happening from the sides of the valley. All around the Amiata, this is no longer the case because everything has been eroded and washed away. But in the Magic Valley, all of this is actually gathered and concentrated and blended. So we have a very extraordinary mix of volcanic soil. So it's not lavic like the Etna soils. We have a lot of quartz, we have limestone, we have metamorphic clay, and the metamorphic clay really is the super secret to the Golden Valley, because the metamorphic clay is the primordial sea sediment that all of the hot volcanic matter was spouted out of the volcano on top of it, and it cooked this. Now, that is actually a natural fossil fertilizer which we have present in our soil. So for some years now, I haven't been giving our vineyards any fertilizer. We are able to survive in this incredibly sustainable way, thanks to the fact that we're under the magic mountain, the Amiata. We have a lot of water because the Amiata is full of water, and that water comes through gravitational movement and it comes up into our valley. So we have subsoil water, we have mixed volcanic soil, and we have extreme changes between day and night in temperature. So we have great minerals in the soil. The plants have deep root exploration and a lot of water. And this wonderful cold air at night allows for this incredible extraction and very, let's say, this wonderful distillation of the sugars. So the wines that we make have this wonderful complexity that's not very instant, it's not very obvious. There's a lot of dark fruit, like most Sangioveses. We have a lot of blackberry and dark cherry in the wines, and then obviously it goes through a very herbal flight. So lots of sage and marjoram and thyme and all of the things that you find in the fields around the castle. We even get a little bit of mentuccia towards the end. And then we have a fabulous sapidity, so they're very salty finish to the wines, which are driven with these wonderful rail track tannins that you get in all Sangioveses that just keep coming through. So we have a complexity that's very persistent and determined with this wonderful succulence. And I think wines should always be succulent, so they get a nice amount of salivation in your mouth. The mineral element in the soil really brings out the sapidity. So they have this wonderful marine element towards the end. The wines are Sangiovese, pure varietal, obviously. They are all fermented in large oak, and then they're aged for 3 years in large oak. They all obviously, like most Sangioveses, have great aging potential, and you get wonderful, when the wines begin to age, you get the wonderful sort of sweaty horse and leather and cigar box and all of those beautiful elements that you get typically in a Sangiovese when it ages. I think that the one thing that I really feel is, and I very much appreciated what Francesco was saying about the importance of the Sangiovese as a, its history. So we do know that the Etruscans were in the valley. We found these very interesting winemaking stones down the valley that are probably Etruscan. They're called the palmenti or the pesteroli. So this really attests to that wonderful continuous tradition that everyone here who's making Sangiovese lives in. And I always think that wine isn't something now that happens now. Every glass really is a continuum of that history and of all of those thousands of years where, as Francesca was saying, people were working the land and learning how to really sustain themselves in an intelligent way with the terroir and the soil and the earth and the nature that surrounded them. So whenever I drink Sangiovese, I recognize that it's a continuum of that fantastic history and that past and all those people who've worked the soil and learnt how to graft and made their experiments, understanding how to get the best product from the land. So I drink to all of them.
Cheers
Everyone
to
who's
that,
made
Charlotte. Thank you for
Sangiovese
your incredible
in all
words.
time.
Cheers to you all. Maybe Emily, are you the wonderful thing about the wine world, as I said at the beginning when we were talking, is the sort of the friendships that come out of that surround wine. And I know you and Charlotte go way back, and you've organized lots of events together. And now you're in the Chianti Colli Senesi, Emily. Maybe talk a little bit about that sort of change from what Charlotte's doing near Monte Almiata and what you're seeing at the winery where you're currently living near Siena.
Yeah, it's funny, Helen. I mean, I can't see I don't know, my camera's working because I can't see myself, which is possibly really fortunate. But when I arrived in Italy in 2014 from the River Cafe in London, I was anticipating that I'd probably work somewhere like Barolo or Montalcino, some kind of highbrow, premium, expensive place, and I find myself in Chianti Colli Senesi, which I suppose is kind of lowbrow. I guess a lot of people don't really think much about Chianti Colli Senesi or maybe have much respect for it, which is unfair, actually. I think a lot of DOCGs, I think I was just reading that Chianti Colli Senesi, geographically it covers Montalcino, it covers Montepulciano, but all these wines, they use their grapes to make their more famous DOCGs, but they could also go under Chianti Colli Senesi. So it's for me, it's where I'm based. It's called Torre alle Tolfe, and it's in the hands of this kind of young couple, Italian English couple. And but the property, the farm has been in use since 785 AD, and it's got this wonderful history. And the wines for me, they're beautiful. They have integrity and honesty, which I think you find with Sangiovese as a variety. It has you can't seem to. I don't think people can cover it up very cleverly. Like it just has this integrity about it, which I really enjoy. And here, this wine, this wine I'm drinking is I think 10-12 euros, and it's really straightforward wine, really refreshing, which I also enjoy about Sangiovese. It's refreshment quality, and which is why I would always kind of go towards it in a restaurant, because it works so beautifully with food. It's really refreshing, really straightforward. This is the straightforward Chianti Colli Senesi. Reserva, of course, has more levels, is more intricate. It spends time in oak. This wine just stays in cement. But it's wonderful. I just went on a walk because I live on the estate, so I just went to the winery to pick up a bottle, and I found thyme, I found rosemary, I mean, I found wild fennel. I've got bay leaves. I've got the mentuce that Charlotte was talking about. I've got violets. I mean, they're just coming to the end, but it feels like this area, Tuscany, is so special, and all these herbs absolutely translate into the wine. And Filippo was talking about these Mediterranean herbs, and for me, they really have this super Tuscan quality. And what I also feel that Charlotte didn't mention, but she also makes exceptional Pinot Noir, a variety that translates its territory very beautifully and coherently. And I feel that Sangiovese does that too. And in Chianti Colli Senesi, what it translates is that here we have particularly sandy soils. So there's a wonderful lightness and aromatic, this perfume, which is really attractive.
He's drinking an amazing, he's cracked open an amazing Brunello, and I can tell that he's itching to tell us about it. Tell us, oh, look at
Oh,
that.
please do.
Come on, make us salivate. Tell us everything, Filippo.
Oh no, I'm so happy to do this because I haven't been in Castello di Potentino in like 7-8 years. So it's great to listen. You know, when I was listening to the vicinity, to how close Potentino is to the Mount Amiata, I'm just back in this, like it's like a fairy tale place, Potentino, and so this is we gonna, the group that we see here, this like 2,000 people. We gotta do like a massive party over there as soon as this is over, and it's so great to see everyone here. I was mentioning a couple of things. Yes, 1977, Ruffino. I was lucky enough to just get a few glasses 2 years ago, and it's phenomenal. Like it's like the longevity of certain wines, even in difficult vintages, because like the 70s haven't really been like special vintages. There haven't been that many special vintages in Tuscany, but when you have the DNA of a great variety like Sangiovese can really shine through. And so this morning I got this beautiful bottle. This is one of the Brunello di Montalcino that I love the most. Amore e Magia from Podere le Ripi. Why do I love this wine? Well, I love this wine because Sebastian Nasello is a young winemaker. This is Francesco Illy estate. Francesco Illy is one of the brothers of the coffee family. Francesco is like a super very bright person with incredible creativity, and he started off this wine estate in 1997, sorry, so not too long ago. And one of the stories that he has to tell is this: like he said, a lot of people are telling me in the wine world that if you want to make fine wine, you have to wait at least for the vines to be 30-40 years old, because that's when the roots go deep down in the soil, right, to look for the water, and that's when you can make fine wines. But he said, like, I'm 65 now, I cannot wait that long. So what did he do? He started to cultivate the vine with 65,000 plants per hectare, 65000. Now, for people that are not in the wine world, this might not mean too much, but for all the winemakers that are here, it sounds like it's a bonkers number that I gave you, because the average amount of plants per hectare is like roughly like 6,000, right? 6,000-7,000. If you really want to push, you're gonna go to 12,000 in the flatlands, maybe in Bordeaux. So Francesco planted these bonsai vines with the idea that if you increase the competition among the vines, the roots need to go deep down looking for water, and as a result, they go so deep in the soil as if they were 30-40 years old. The result is these magical wines that Sebastian Nasello, super young, very, very cool, very humble winemaker, is releasing these wines with a old school style approach. So no new oak barrels, everything is like big Slavonian oak barrels. Fermentation kicks off naturally, no selected yeast, nothing, not that I have anything against selected yeast, but just it's an information. So wild yeast, and the result for me is this, somebody said succulent, Castello di Potentino juiciness, and at the same time this incredible sweet. So when Sangiovese is good for me, is like the first dash of wine in your mouth is like sweet, but sweet without having residual sugar, and that's when I love these wines. That are, you feel like you can drink them, you can down them by the bucket. You know what? They're so good because there is this natural sweetness, but at the same time there is complexity. So if you're accustomed to wine tasting, your brain starts to open up to several mini universes and galaxies of not only flavors and aromas, but actually is like the feelings that you have that bring you take you for several journeys. 2015 is the last vintage in Montalcino, which has been pretty hot vintage, so the wines tend to be more ready to drink than normally would be. 5 years of aging by law before the wine is released in the market, and it's a vintage that everybody was waiting, because 2014 in Montalcino was pretty rainy like everywhere else, so the wines had been a little bit more dilute, less production. But a winery like Podere Le Ripi, great wineries always manage, if they put something in the market, is because they grab some healthy fruit, like good fruit, and they're able to make good wines anyway. Maybe not wines that are gonna last forever, but still good wines. So I'm enjoying this Brunello. I wanted to do some exercises, like some yoga at the end of this, but I might not be able to do it. Cheers.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. We're getting lots of little messages, so I want to say, everybody, yes, you're all invited to the party. Please do chip in, tell us what you're drinking. Therese tells us that she's drinking a Varezzano Castello 2011. It was the only 100% Sangiovese she has at home. Are you there, Therese? Do you want to tell us a little bit about what that wine's saying to you?
Well, I'm really not an expert and can't tell you what it's saying to me, but it's really exceptional and I really adore it.
That's what matters most. You know, it's what we personally get out of the wine of the day, no? Cheers. Where are you joining us from, Therese?
From Kaiserslautern in Germany.
Ah, okay, wonderful. And we also have Istanbul here as well.
Oh, and I finished my quiche tonight with my wine.
Yeah, Therese joined us the other day because we did a cooking class on Monday, and she made she made us some quiche along with Steve, who I think is also here, right? Steve, are you here with us? Maybe he's left, but that was Monday night, so we're doing different things in most evenings. I just think, Paige, what's that Ruffino wine saying to you that you're drinking there?
All right. Well, I pulled the Ruffino from my bar, so I have not opened the Ruffino. The Ruffino, it's a savor. I did go out yesterday to do the Monsanto Chianti Classico, and after listening to specifically all of you, but specifically Francesco, I'm at a loss of words. I think Dante would be so proud of his exclamations and his poetry as he described the experience as opposed to the wine. So mine, what I'm finding in mine, and I'm a fledgling, but earthy, maybe a bit of clay, cherry, blueberry, a little salty finish, which seems, is that something? Because I feel like I'm not near the ocean with this vintage or with this wine. And then, as you've all said, leather and a high acidity. So I'm just enjoying learning alongside you.
Colette, what I see you're drinking there. What are you drinking this evening?
I'm drinking a Chianti Montalbano, so from the area of Querceto. Yeah, not much choice at the moment, but it's very light, not too strong and tanniny. Some fruit, so blueberries. Yeah, I think that's just quite light. I had a snack before, otherwise I think it would be a little bit tipsy at the moment. My excuse to drink before dinner. So
I don't know if this is true, but so the news came out today that in the last 2 weeks in Italy, wine sales have gone up by nearly 200%.
That with my family, it's a very big thing. In the bad situation, the other side of the medal is that I spend finally time with my little ones and with my wife. And the loveliest part of the day is around the table, as it always been. And every day we have different wines, and we have bought through the different e-commerce channels that facilitate the delivery at home without breaking the rules. So I was just saying that it's part, it's my fault that it's also my fault because I'm spending a lot of money, honestly.
You're fine. Mary, you're doing deliveries, right? For your wine to around the nation and beyond.
We are, and I mean, it's pretty amazing. Like we didn't expect it, but you know, since all of this is kind of, you know, the world has changed quite a lot, but we've done an amazing amount of online sales. Like our e-commerce, I'll be honest, is like kind of exploded. Whereas we always did, you know, like a pretty decent job with the e-commerce, but recently it's unbelievable. I think it's a combination of things. I mean, even for us personally, we're probably drinking more wine now than we usually do. I also think it's because, like, one, we have, cheers. But I think it's also because we have, now we have a little more time for cooking. So we actually, like, we have a little meal plan for the week in different dishes. And we obviously, with a lot of them, we want to pair it with a really beautiful, you know, kind of a nice bottle of wine. So even for us, we're probably, you know, we're drinking more and obviously responsibly. But and actually we're a little nervous because we have a decent cantina like in our apartment in Florence, but we're kind of making our way through it faster than usual, let's say. But I also think for us, I mean, we're a smaller family-run estate, so a lot of people have been buying our wines because they also want to show support for us. So people are, it's not that they're just like buying wines, they're also sending us really lovely messages, you know, just kind of checking in, seeing how we're doing. And it's been really, I mean, for us, it's been amazing to kind of see the response and the reach out from people. But I think, you know, in wine, it just, I mean, it brings people together. It's such a social, you know, thing, and it's such a, and, you know, I mean, the experience with it, I think, always tends to be quite personal and quite kind of emotional. And I think we need a little, you know, a little joy these days. So when you can have a beautiful bottle of wine, it's really quite lovely.
Could I say something? I think that it's really interesting this, because certainly since the pandemic's really hit in with the lockdown, we've actually been getting more orders than through friends and our contacts and e-commerce than we have through some of our agents in the last 6 months. And I think this is really interesting because some time ago we gave a sort of symposium with a whole load of food and wine experts, and one of the things that was discussed was that all of the algorithms are there for people to have access to, direct access to small producers' products. Unfortunately, most people had a perception that they couldn't get them, so it was more convenient to go to the supermarket or more convenient to go to your local wine shop. But because that is no longer the case, all those algorithms are actually in place, then people are using them. So it's a fantastically positive thing that will come out of this, is that I think people will stick with that and they will go, I can still get my favorite wine from, you know, from Mary or Charlotte or Francesco or whoever or Emily, and they will still use those systems. So I think this is really going to be a really big positive change in the market, because I think people will go, well, I can still support those friends. I can still get my favorite wine. I'll still carry on doing that. So that's going to be one of the really big positive shifts, is that people are using the access that Amazon and all of these people have created to get to their favorite small producers. So I see this as a really positive thing that's happening.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, well, Charlotte was still, because when I, obviously I work with Charlotte and I do courses at Potentino, and she reads out at the end of my courses to our guests this poem by Paolo Neruda, which is about wine, which is the most beautiful poem that I hope everyone here has read, or if they haven't, then they will absolutely adore it. I mean, being wine lovers, it will really chime for them. And it's about wine and the beauty of wine. And so I am a single mother. I have a 2.5-year-old son, and so this is quite a challenging time because it's just us, and it's pretty on the conversation front. We have a lot of talk about Fireman Sam and things, but I don't have a great deal of intelligent conversation going on a lot of the time. It's from my side too, but I was thinking every time I open a bottle of wine, I'm fortunate I have some great wines in the house, and I have great friends who make great wine, and I drink it, and I think it really is a conversation for me. This is my opportunity in the evening when dinner time comes, I open a bottle. This is my opportunity for intelligent conversation, and that poem always comes up for me, and I think, God, because there's so much to appreciate about. And they're all Tuscan, the wines that I'm drinking. I'm being very faithful and loyal to Tuscan wines currently, and it's really special to have this relationship. And I hope that on the export market, because I'd heard awful stories that in some countries they weren't importing Italian wine because of certain fears, and I thought, God, if I was in England at the moment, I would be absolutely necking Italian wine, just to have that connection with this country that I adore, and obviously adore the wines too. So for me, it's a really special moment in the day when I open a bottle of wine and have this connection to this conversation. So anyway, thanks for that, Charlotte, because that poem always speaks to me every time I open a bottle of wine, or I remember it. So everybody go and Google Paolo Neruda and wine, and it's a gorgeous poem.
Ode to Wine.
Ode to Wine, that's it.
Okay.
And it always makes me cry, and in fact it's really embarrassing because every time I read it I burst into tears.
And she's not a crybaby, Charlotte.
No, being English, it's something I feel very bad about doing.
Here we go. Ode to Wine. Day-coloured wine, night-coloured wine, wine with purple feet, or wine with topaz blood, wine, starry child of earth, wine, smooth as a golden sword, soft as vivacious velvet, wine, spiral seashelled and full of wonder, amorous, marine, never has one goblet contained you, one song, one person. You are choral, gregarious. At the least, you must be shared. Everybody go and have a glass, think about that, and please do buy Tuscan Italian wine, because this is what's going to be so very, very important for us in the future. And if it's Sangiovese, even better, but other varietals are great too. So.